Bitcoin long-term holders. It's probably one of the most important thresholds within on-chain analysis. If we look to long-term holders, it is defined as an address that has held their Bitcoin for 155 days or more. Now, you're going to want to stick around for this one because I did spend too much time to admit working on this. But that 155-day threshold, as I said, is incredibly important. But it's based on initial research from 2020. Now, this was groundbreaking at the time, so props to Glassnode and their analysts for putting this together. But a lot of people ask me, what actually is a long-term holder? And it's essentially when the probability of spending a UTXO or transferring that within the next 14 days, as outlined in this Glassnode document, essentially declines at an exponential rate and flattens out on this graph. But I wondered, Bitcoin's changed a lot in 6 years. I mean, if we look at the active addresses, we can see fewer and fewer people are actually using Bitcoin as a peer-to-peer electronic cash system. We can see through the ETFs and treasury companies, more and more people are holding Bitcoin indefinitely as a store of value asset. Now, granted, a few years later, Glassnode did actually come back and revisit this in 2024 and fitted this log almost power law dynamic to spending probability, which is very interesting. We can see it decays at a very linear rate on this log scale. We can see for every 10x fold in or 10x decrease in spend probability, it likely takes 10 times longer for that to occur, which again is very, very interesting. But again, I was thinking a static valuation for the long-term holder boundary, at least in my mind, just didn't really make a lot of sense. So I did a lot of research, and I've written my first research paper exploring this exact topic. Now, first and foremost, before I dove any deeper, I wanted to replicate the findings from Glassnode. And I'll admit, I was a couple of days off based on their initial publication. They have a lot of entity adjustment going on and some peculiarities, let's say, in their methodology, which wasn't made entirely publicly available. And along with that, I was able to replicate the power law dynamic and come to this ultra long-term holder threshold, which is where the spend probability reduces from, at least in my calculations, 3% down to around 0.3%, which takes somewhere around 4+ years. Now, what is interesting as well is during this analysis, as I said, there's some entity adjustment going on, essentially meaning that Glassnode are taking into account a lot of movement between exchanges and certain, other things that, again, wasn't made publicly available. But during this research, it wasn't just long-term holder classification that I was trying to look deeper into it and delve into and ensure it's the most accurate and actionable we can find. So if we just look at the standard realized price, now this is the cost basis or average accumulation price for all BTC on the network. But not all BTC on the network is really proper transactions, at least in my view. So we have a few different filters I think we need to apply to this. So first and foremost, the block Coinbase, which is the block reward that miners receive upon minting a new block, the new inflationary, the new circulating BTC. That's not really a transaction in my eyes. As well as that, we have Bitcoin Dust. We can just go to the Bitcoin GitHub, the underlying core code that we see here. And Dust is essentially a UTXO, which would really cost more to send than the transaction would actually be worth. It's essentially unspendable. And we also have transactions that are literally unspendable without their OP return. And there's also inscriptions which have come about in 2023, which really exploded the amount of real nominal amount of transactions. We were inscribing Satoshis via ordinals, etc. And again, these kind of non-fungible Satoshis, in my mind, aren't really transactions. So when I filtered all of this out, recreated the original boundary, and again, rather than looking at a cumulative all time, the thing I really wanted to emphasize and focus on was making metrics derived from this new classification of long-term and short-term holders more actionable. So the way I did that was create the MVRV, the spend output profit ratio, the net unrealized profit and loss, the NUPL. And I wanted the highs and lows to be in a much closer cluster, a much tighter range with this. So The way I actually formulated in the end was to work on essentially a 4-year rolling basis, which is this green line, which is what I would more strongly consider to be the long-term holder boundary going forward. And this is recalibrated on a daily basis based on the entire history of all Bitcoin transactions. Now, you might be hearing this and think 114 days. The classification of long-term holder has decreased. Like, I know people that have been holding for years and, they wouldn't even consider themselves long-term holders at this point. But you have to keep in mind, this is at the point in time in which spending probability exponentially decreases. And because people are holding Bitcoin as a store of value asset more than ever, you don't have to hold it as long before your likelihood of spending it again drops off significantly. And what we can see in this red line here, which isn't classified on a rolling window, this is the spend probability for the 0.9 quantile, the 90th percentile of transactions. So essentially, at what point in time have 90% of transactions that will ever happen will occur? Because a lot of the Bitcoin that is in these long-term holder addresses might never actually be spent ever again. So if we take a different kind of approach to separate long-term holders and long-term spenders, then again, we can see this almost inverse correlation where when the threshold for long-term holder spending increases, or long-term holding, I should say, this green line, the likelihood of spending, that 90th percentile of spending, decreases. People are using Bitcoin more. But recently, as this long-term holder boundary has dropped to 114 from my research, the likelihood of spending has diminished. So the 90th percentile of Bitcoin output isn't happening for 213 days, an all-time high. So, at least to me, this is very interesting research. But as I said, as much as I can look into this and formulate new definitions of what a long-term holder is, unless it's more actionable, more accurate, more reactive, and more true to what we're actually seeing, it's not really, there's no point in having it. But we can see, if we look at the percentage of long-term holders, so we can see the long-term holder supply in just raw numbers, currently about 16.57 million Bitcoin. But again, we can look at it in percentage terms, and we can see this dotted gray line is that static 155-day classification, whereas this green line is this new methodology of dormant supply. And we can see during the peak of 2021, for example, this dropped significantly, indicating that there was a hell of a lot more Bitcoin being moved from these long-term holders because the definition or the boundary of what a long-term holder is increased because their spend probability also increased, meaning the Q.9 actually decreased. If you read through the paper, I'm not going to say it's light reading, but for on-chain data analysts, you'll probably find it pretty interesting. But right now we can see it's about 85% of Bitcoin is in this long-term holder supply, higher than that static boundary. And the spend velocity has also decreased substantially. And along with that, because we're not just filtering or defining long-term holders based on spend probability, we're also getting rid of dust. We're getting rid of the unspendable transactions. The realized price on its own has actually been slightly changed. We can see here this solid black realized price line is actually slightly lower than this almost filtered true realized price line. Because as I said, if we're counting the average accumulation price of Bitcoin UTXOs that are literally guaranteed to never be spent again, that's not really giving us a true representation of cost basis. Similarly for miner rewards, that's coming every 10 minutes. Are they immediately spending it? No, but then are we double counting it when they do move it? To me, that again just didn't make sense to include. So we can see here I did all of this spend output profit ratio analysis, MVRV, everything. But we can see it's more actionable. So what this is the long-term holder spent output profit ratio. So on Bitcoin Magazine Pro, we have the standard spent output profit ratio. But again, we can look at this on a dynamic threshold or boundary for long-term or short-term holders, change that into a trailing Z-score, and look at the historic quantile. So essentially the percentile, at what point in time has, say, the top 10%, the top 5% of spending days occurred on a rolling basis. And we can see this has absolutely nailed the Bitcoin tops and bottoms pretty much to perfection. I mean, that double peak cycle, maybe not. And in the most recent cycle, it wasn't the October peak, but that July peak, again, at $120,000. But every single bear market bottom, even the COVID dip, dropped into these lower quantiles. absolutely to perfection. And where we are right now is on par with that $60,000 reading. Practically the lowest levels ever. Not only is it more interesting and variable, it's more actionable. And as I said, if we're redefining what a long-term holder is, we're also redefining what a short-term holder is. So with a similar bit of analysis, I looked into the short-term holder MVRV and applied the same methodology. And again, it's just looking, it's looking a lot more accurate. Again, it's not nailing the exact peaks because we see big capitulations at different times throughout Bitcoin's history. But we can see these big major spikes to the upside are occurring when we're getting these big upside moves in Bitcoin's price action. And these big downside capitulations, again, also occurring at major market lows, major turning points for Bitcoin. So clearly, there's a little bit to this. And what we can do is take it one step further, which you know we like to do, and almost take that kind of quantile methodology, but apply it to this new filtered realized price to kind of gauge based on the ratio between the underlying cost basis for filtered Bitcoin transactions and the price, these kind of quantile bands, an upper and a lower threshold of where we'd anticipate Bitcoin to be moving to. And again, these aren't repainting historically. This is based on real on-chain fundamental Bitcoin data. And right now we're in the bottom 20th percentile looking at this kind of quantile band methodology as I film this at around $65,000. It's giving an upwards Q5, so the absolute kind of upper threshold. But again, these are thresholds that we reached in this cycle. Everyone talks about on-chain data not being able to pick the cycle peaks. But again, if we look at it at a more reactive basis on a variable length threshold, it's very, very actionable. And right now, this is sitting at just around $130,000. Now, of course, this is going to increase as the realized price, this new filtered realized price increases. But to me, looking at something like this, which is adapting to the changes in data, and of course, there's limitations. Of course, there's areas where this can be improved upon. This is my first bit of work. It might do terrible. If you don't like it, fair enough. But again, I wanted to make public all of the formulas that I used, all of the filters, everything, so it can be replicated by anyone in a true open source nature. So if you do want to read through this paper, if you go to mattcrosby.pro, which is almost going to be the test site we have for Bitcoin Magazine Pro and my own certain tweaks and data analysis, not only can you download the paper, read through it, tell me your thoughts, but you can also actually go and look at these interactive charts so you can see how these have changed historically. Every single one of the metrics included within this paper. So you can go test it out, see, how's it looking with this new filtered realized price? What about this new long-term holder realized price? Look at how that's moving. Look at the short-term holder metrics, etc. I think the bear markets are for building, without a doubt. And I'm really taking the opportunity throughout this Bitcoin bear market to do as much interesting and insightful and useful for the community work that we can possibly do. And we're not stopping here because not all long-term holders are created equally. I'm not going to take credit for coming up with this initial idea. There's Johan from the Bitcoin Layer and Nim from the Bitcoin Research Kit have already been doing fantastic work on actually separating long-term holders into rookies and veterans, because you might be a long-term holder if you buy the exact bull market peak and hold until the next cycle. But you're not really an experienced good market timer if you do that. You just held for a long period of time. So if we can then isolate long-term holders between those buying the tops and buying the bottoms and maybe follow the genuine smart money, then we're just going to keep improving these metrics further and further. But again, I hope you at least found this partly interesting. And I'm hoping, as I said, people can take this and build upon it to continue to make Bitcoin on-chain data analysis better than it ever has been before. The industry has used a static 155-day threshold to define long-term holders for many, many years, since March 2020. And as I said, Glassnode did revisit that in 2024 and pretty much replicate those findings, but their exact methodology is hidden, so I couldn't do that. And using that 2020 piece almost as my anchoring point and working backwards from there with genuinely true, publicly available formulations and data, we were able to replicate those findings, but then adjust it so it's a little bit more actionable. And again, if you read through that paper, it actually compares the accuracy of these all-time cumulative metrics, these rolling for you. And I tested this across many, many different data sets. So again, this was the truest findings that I could come up with, but this is an open project. If any of you guys can come up with better methodology, man, do I truly welcome it, because I don't want to personally benefit from this. Anyone can use this research paper. Anyone can update their own metrics to use this new variable long-term holder boundary to create even better data, because then the entire space improves. But ultimately, what we can see is this new methodology is coming up with a threshold of 114 days, which is 27% lower than that static standard. And what we can see is, like I said, metrics built on this boundary seem to become more accurate, more reactive, and a little bit more actionable. And they're all pointing towards us being clearly in deep value territory. But as I said, this is my first ever publicly published research piece, so be nice. Don't be too horrible and mean with it. But I want this improved further, and I'm hoping over the next few weeks, next few months, during this bear market, we can set the standard for what on-chain data can be, and we can improve the space in general. And as always, thank you all very much for watching. Leave your comments below and on social media. Leave your comments down below and on social media. Sorry, it's been a long day trying to get this together. What else? England are going to win the World Cup. Thank you all very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.